most startups are not doing good user research.
Today, I'm joined by Michelle Gilmore, co-founder of Hey Juno, a groundbreaking platform using AI to conduct user research at scale.
It's just taken so much of my work away so that I can just focus on other things and I can think about the future and I can think about what's next.
Michelle started out as an industrial designer, built a hugely successful consultancy, and has spent years traveling the world to uncover customer insights for some of the biggest brands.
Once you start consuming experiences, stories, and sentiment from your market, you will never look back.
Now she's taken that experience and built something extraordinary. An AI-powered researcher and even a digital clone of herself to ensure its quality. We dive into what this means for the future of design, decision-making, and how companies can avoid the costly trap of building products nobody wants. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
I'm glad that we finally made the timing work for both of us.
Yeah, me too.
Look, I've been working with startups and scale-ups and enterprises for years now, and I think research has always been looked as a nice to have. And a lot of people realize that it's way more costly not to do research up front, which obviously kind of feeds into exactly what you do with Hey Juno. But I think before we jump into that, I'd love to get a bit of a background on who you are and how you got to the point you're in now, and how you started Hey Juno.
So I'm an industrial designer by trade. So learned my craft of experimentation and prototyping and designing for humans and human behavior by designing physical products initially. And then I very quickly started my own consultancy. And the point of that company was to build product systems and services that were channel agnostic, so medium agnostic. At the time, there were mobile agencies popping up, digital agencies, web agencies, graphic design agencies. They all select a medium. And I thought that true customer experience that was world-class wouldn't necessarily be fitting into a particular medium. That company was incredibly successful for 10 to 15 years. And what we became really good at was qualitative research in field. So I traveled the world for the better part of 7 years for our clients to understand the behavioral need that they were trying to surface. Off the back of that, we started playing around with AI. We thought that humans were going to be really good at this thing. Turns out they're not. They're really bad at it, which we can get into later. But AI is really good at it. It's a perfect application of this technology that's before us, and we're seeing incredible results. So my co-founder, Josh, started playing around with AI sort of 3-4 years ago now. And about 2 years ago, it got very good, and we launched 18 months ago. So Juno is an AI-led researcher. All it does really well is interview real humans on behalf of our customers.
Which is a pretty good segue. I think a lot of startups, scale-ups, or companies think user research is a very expensive endeavor. Whereas now, with things like Hey Juno, it's a fraction of the cost and way faster, which you're kind of removing the friction points. So pretty timely on your behalf in terms of marketing position, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, I put myself out of a job as a human, but I did just come out of a 3-hour session with my engineering team because they're creating a digital clone of me, which is incredible. And that version of me is going to be evaluating Juno rather than me, the human, because I have been evaluating it for a year and it's becoming a very time-consuming job. So I think that there's something really powerful about domain expertise, deep domain expertise, working with machines to create a better outcome that we've ever seen before. It is absolutely cheaper and faster, but I would argue that it's better than it's ever been.
Whoa, the rate it's getting better is the scary part, I think.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Like I started using ChatGPT is the best example. Everyone knows it, and it's been around in the public's eye for the longest. I've been playing with it since it first came out, and like the difference is chalk and cheese between when it came out and the capability of it now. And it's just getting better, and the speed that the new, I guess, evolution of it comes out, it's just crazy. But I'm using it in every area of the business because I think it does increase capacity at a fraction of the cost. And that's the good thing about it. How are you creating the AI you? Is it just to analyze what's happening from a research perspective? Are you doing like voice? Like what are you actually solving
Mm.
by creating Michelle AI?
So the digital clone of me is essentially a digital agent that is cloning my subject matter expertise as it relates to qualitative
Yep.
research. So I have essentially downloaded and articulated every experience of that I've had, what's good, what's bad, examples, um, and a kind of proprietary approach to that is absolutely subjective. That is my opinion and my
Yep.
approach, and we have fed that into a digital version of me that will evaluate Juno as it interviews people for our customers across 40 to 50 core competencies that I deem important if interviews are high quality. So if you're going to do great interviews, you need to be doing these 40 to 50 things all the time very well. And we have created a digital clone that's essentially going to govern the system to make sure we're doing that.
That's cool. So let's say, hey, Juno's doing the interview. Michelle Clone is reviewing
Yeah.
everything that Hey Juno's doing to make sure
Yeah,
the
and
output.
nudging our interviewer in real time.
Oh, really?
Do less of that, do more of that. That was great. Here's some praise. Here's some discipline. Um, wow, there's something we've never seen before. Hang on a second. What do we want to do with that? Based on what I have defined as a great interview, using my 15 years experience all over the world in different contexts, languages, cultures, that digital clone is going to now, from tomorrow, be the way that Juno is governed, evaluated, and improved over time.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. And will only, not only will it make the product better, but it will scale me in a way that I don't think I've been able to do before. You know, I as the human am going to be able to work on other things whilst my digital clone is evaluating this system to make sure it is the best that it can be.
It's such a fascinating concept to wrap your head around, right? Like we were introduced to AI
Mm,
3 years ago, and now you're cloning yourself, and it's helping you build your product,
yeah.
get out of day to day.
And I'm all about it. I am it's made my day.
I bet. Well, it's going to make your day for forever on, right?
I know, right? It's just taken so much of my work away so that I can just focus on other things and I can think about the future and I can think about what's next, rather than sitting at a whole bunch of screens and evaluating line by line what Juno's doing, which to do this well, you have to do. You have to be evaluating every day from a position of subject matter expertise. That's the only thing that makes Juno different, that makes it great, is the quality. That's our whole brand is about being the best. No gimmicks, no sparkly features. It just interviews really well.
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong is they think AI is going to solve all their problems and be able to do all the work straight away, whereas does take quite a lot of time to train,
Yeah.
have that quality control, and ensure the output is going to be at the level, and it needs to be iterated constantly. It's not because, wow, when you go from ChatGPT 4 to ChatGPT 5, things change. You need to
Yeah.
make sure that you're on top of these changes with any large language model. But we're keen to get into like pain points, right? I guess you help companies do user research a lot faster at a fraction of the cost.
Mm,
And you've been doing user research for many years across
I
many
have.
continents. What's one of the most expensive assumptions that you've seen companies make without doing user research?
I think the most common one that I've seen across probably 2 decades is uh, passively following the loudest or the most powerful opinion in the room. And that is a very generous way of saying essentially just following blind ego.
Yep.
So I would often be asked to sort of validate the ego of a C level or of management, they think we should go in this direction. Can you please go and get some research that says that's so?
Yep.
And not only is it just stupid, it is an incredibly expensive way to go the long way round to kind of reverse engineer research. I think when it's done really well, there is a purity to the intention, which is surrendering to being open to whatever comes out of it. That's when it's done really well. When it is fueled by an agenda that is humans trying to pay for data that will tell them what they want to hear, that is when it gets very expensive.
In that sort of a scenario, because obviously, let's say if you're looking at small businesses, who should be running the research? If it's let's say the founder of the company that's leading the direction, and you're trying to validate their assumptions, which might not be the right assumptions to be validating, who should be running that? Look, what happens if it's a small company? Do you still have that founder using the research to try and, I don't know, disapprove their thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think if we're talking about startups and if we're looking at that context, a lot of startups, most startups are not doing good user research. They say that it's because of budget. I think now that probably is not true. I'm not sure that we could argue anymore. If we're paying $5, $10, $20 an interview, I'm not sure that we could say it's about budget anymore. I think it's probably about fear. I think it's about not wanting to be vulnerable, not wanting our ideas or our opinions to be true. I think it might be about not wanting to be proven wrong. I think that there is a courage that comes with saying, I am going to put my ideas out there and I'm open to people hating those. Now, that doesn't mean that you necessarily go with what the research says. I think great leaders sometimes go with the anti-pattern. They go with what people say they didn't want, and it works. It's not that we have to listen to all of the research that comes out, and that's a whole different topic. But I do think it's really important that we create spaces where our own views can be challenged, and that's the beautiful thing about research. Who should own it? I don't think it matters now that AI can do this. I think previously we were talking about teams of humans that would run this, and AI is just much better at this. So you outsource now to a company like Juno. Juno will never lead. Juno will only ever be neutral. Juno will only go and mine for data around the topic that you tell it to focus on. Well, that's who's owning it, really. I think that you are saying, I want this third-party tool to go and find out about X, and then I'm going to decide what I do with the data that comes out of that. It's actually quite simple now, that transaction.
Yep.
And who owns that data? Well, hopefully the whole organization owns that, and it's not something that is owned by a silo inside of organization. I think that the larger organizations do have a research and insights component that generally own that. Some of that works well, some of it doesn't. But I think it's more about the agenda or the intention behind the research that makes it sort of good or bad.
Yep. Just want to circle back to one of the first things that you said. If I'm a founder, I would rather be proven wrong than build something that doesn't work and no one wants.
I celebrate being proven wrong. I think it's one of the most important magical pieces of data that I can get. It lights me up. I think that it's a really great day if I'm proven wrong. It means that I've got clear data. It means that we heard that thing early. It means that the systems and processes and workflows were in place, that I don't get to just drive my opinion home, that my team are pushing back, that there is an experimentation process in place where something has to earn its right to be deployed. It's not just my idea as the CEO. And so all of those things tell me that we're on the right track.
We talked about maybe the founder not wanting to be proven wrong or wanting to go in their direction because they're tied to that as an outcome. What do you think the hidden cost of that mindset is? First of all, building products that no one wants to use.
And there's many of those, right?
Yeah. You must have seen it time and time again with chasing the wrong direction what what needs to change in the mindset of I don't know, a C-level suite start? Like,
There's no doubt that some leaders, founders, inventors, product designers have the ability to shape a product and get it pretty close to right and humming, um, whilst completely ignoring the audience that they intend to serve. Sure, maybe there is a slice of those that are gifted that can do that. Um, I think that it's pretty damn rare. I think that generally speaking, you have to really understand your audience and you have to watch them and observe them and troll through transcripts of them talking and be able to consume the way that they think and feel to really create a great product for them. I truly believe that. And that's what research is, right? It just gives you access to the people that you are designing for. And the proximity to the truth in that is what's really important. So you don't want teams of people, you don't want consultants that have an agenda that are getting paid by the hour. You want to be able to consume that data yourself so that you know it. That's what I believe is sort of turbocharging great founders and great products and great companies now. That doesn't mean that you don't get the odd megalomaniac that doesn't want to listen to anyone and drives their idea forward. Sure, that may work every now and then. And I'm sure when it works, it works very well and it works big, and we've seen that, right? But for most of us mortals, I think that we need to have inputs from our users, and we need to then make judgments based on what that data is telling us.
I tend to agree. I built a podcast to talk to design leaders so I could understand them better to work with them. So
Yeah, and do you understand them better now?
I definitely do, but I still think I could do better market research to, like, I'm still blindsided by my opinion on what might work. So do I need to do unbiased customer research to understand them better? Yes, definitely. I consider both.
Probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
Probably leads into my next question. It's like, like a lot of people think research expensive, and maybe it used to be because you had to hire a full-time researcher to come in. Now you can do it at a fraction of the cost with your platform like Hey Juno. How would you, like, if you were sitting down with someone who's never understood user research, how would you tie it back to like direct revenue growth or retention or faster product market fit?
I think it's risk mitigation and it is validation. And it's really cheap now. So traditionally with humans, you would be spending anywhere from sort of $400 to $1,200 a head to do qualitative research. And what I mean by qualitative is open-ended, deep research to understand reasoning, motivations, behaviors, why someone thinks something, why they did something, and quantifying those responses. So we're not talking about surveys. We're not talking about surface answers. We're talking about really understanding what someone thinks and feels and asking them why that is and getting them to give us examples of that. That did used to be expensive. I mean, I've worked on projects up to $1 million in budget, where I traveled all around the world for huge brands and spent time with their customers and non-customers in their homes, work, schools. And that money absolutely was well spent for that brand because I'm really good at this. But now you can spend $20 and get the same outcome. And you know what? Juno doesn't get tired. Juno speaks in 70 languages. Juno works 24/7. And Juno doesn't have a memory issue like humans do.
Or a
So
bias.
Juno can remember 2,200 hours of conversation. I can't.
And
At some
synthesize it.
point, I'm going to hit my max, right? Regardless of how I'm using technology. At some point, as a human-led researcher, I am going to hit my capacity for being able to make meaning of everything that I'm hearing.
Yep.
And we don't have that problem. Juno can continue to pattern make, it can continue to listen, it can have conversations concurrently, and there is no issue with that. So I think that there is just not only is the scale of it changing, but the sheer capacity that technology is giving us in this context is mind-boggling. And now I would say the excuse for not doing it is just not there. It's just not reasonable. It's not a reasonable way to do business to not be doing research where you are constantly listening to your customers to hear what they really think and feel. If you're not doing that, I think you've got much bigger problems. It is cheap, it's fast, it's in any language, it's across devices. I think we're hearing from people that we've never heard from before, and it's really exciting.
I would wonder what the stat is of businesses doing user research. Maybe they do it in a very loose way, but I would say a significant portion of the market have never even thought about user research.
Yeah, I think depending on which study you look at, the numbers differ between 5% of all companies over 1 million in revenue up to about 18% in sort of Western dominant business culture. That's pretty low.
Yeah. Market share for you guys. Woof.
Yeah. But even that, the market research industry in America alone is a $30 to $40 billion industry.
Wow.
So
That's exciting.
it's a big market.
I'm still interested in like, how do we, because like, people love metric. Oh, like, how do you tie it back to ROI? So like revenue growth or retention, or because it's the simplest way of explaining it to someone that hasn't ever done research, right? Like if I wanted to talk to my mum and she runs a business, but she's never done user research, and we go, hey, if you actually understood your customers better, you could get more repeat business, which is going to be 100x revenue off one customer. Like how would you explain it in the simplest terms to a business that doing proper research up front is going to have X amount of output in this area?
I think just tying it back to really common business logic. So you need to get customers, you need to sign those customers, you need to keep those customers, and then you need to get more customers, right? And you just need to
Yep.
keep that going. However you do that, whatever your strategy is to do that, understanding those people more, making your product better, listening to those that are using it and making sure that you're prioritizing things based on people that are going to spend more for that thing versus not. We had a customer who has a video game recently, incredibly successful video game, and they'd launched a new feature that they'd spent a lot of money developing. No one was using it, and they didn't know why. And after 16 Juno interviews, they had figured out why this feature wasn't being monetized within their video game, and they'd made the change. 24 hours later, they were monetizing a feature that they'd already invested in. So there's very, very clear reasons why listening to even a few people talk about, reflect on, share their experience about your product, system, or service is incredibly important. And I don't think that this is a new concept. Listening to your customer, being customer-centered, thinking about your customer is something that really got embedded sort of 15, 20 years ago in sort of Western dominant culture, right? That's when it was sort of seen to be a competitive advantage. Now it is a given.
Yeah.
It's not a competitive advantage. It is a part of just the hygiene of business, is that we need to understand the people that we are trying to sell to or serve. And the question is now, how do we do that? Not, I think, if we do that.
Yeah.
And now that it is so cheap to do that, and you can spend 40 times less and get a better outcome. And I don't think we should discount the fact that you're speaking with people that maybe you weren't able to before because of geography or because of language or because they were never going to answer a survey because surveys could not be less engaging. or because they were never going to let someone into their home, or they were never going to pick up their phone.
Yep.
So we are going to get more people than we were able to get as humans or as crappy survey providers. And that means that we're hearing from people we haven't heard before. Why is that important? Because I think that means that we're going to see more interesting products, systems, and services come out in the world that are not just based on the tiny slither of people that either answered a survey or let people in their homes.
Yep. I think that's a really good example. And I think the thing that came to my mind on that example is they made the changes, or they did the 16 or 17 Juno interviews after launch. How much time and money would they have saved and made if they had done that user research prior to building and launching?
Yeah, I tried not to dwell on that too much with the with the founder. Because I didn't want to focus too much on the fact that Juno wasn't really around when they'd made that bet.
Yep.
But they had always, we did have the conversation, and they had always seen qualitative research as incredibly expensive, and they'd actually tried to do it themselves,
Yep.
but they were really bad at it. I listened to one of the recordings, and it was woeful. The founders asking leading questions.
Oh
What do
no.
you like about this? Not following up, not asking why, not qualifying subjectivity. It was really bad. And so I'm not sure that they just never even entertained it so much as done it quite badly with really good intention. And then it was just happened to be that someone in our network introduced us, and we said, hey, you should give this a whirl. And then it was incredibly valuable for them 24 hours after. So they had tried, and a lot of people do try, but I think we have to accept and acknowledge that, generally speaking, humans are not great at interviewing other people for a very specific purpose in a neutral way that doesn't just distort the data.
I'm just thinking of any time, like if I was speaking to a customer, like there's definitely a bias there.
Of
There's
course.
no way that I could get the actual outcome that I need from that conversation, because I'm way too in my, like I'm trying to ask questions for me, and it's almost just validating the idea that I went in with, probably. So why wouldn't you bring in Juno or a proper researcher that's
Yeah.
trained to actually do this and get the right outcome?
Yeah, and we've got some incredible practitioners that are using Juno to scale themselves. So I was talking to one this morning, and they are doing 10 interviews themselves, and then they're using Juno to do 500. And it's a reasonably complex context. So they are going to make sure that they do a few so that they get a longer in-person interview with this more complex cohort. And then they are using Juno to get a very large sample to have in-depth conversations about, it's a particular healthcare context. So it is a little bit complex. And that's working really well. They'll do it, and they'll do it incredibly well, and Juno will get them the data that they need. And I guarantee the thing that they're designing off the back of it will be much better than it would have been.
I'm excited to use it. I think we'll work out how to bring it into our business and offer it with our research. So
Yeah, I'll hook you up. We'll throw some credits your way, and I'd love to have your feedback.
beautiful. Wow. That'll be a very soon development. So I'll circle back to you on that. But let's bust some myths. I think
Let's.
when it comes to user research, historically, companies like to build shit. They like to get engineers, and they like to have something built before they think about design and users, how it should work. Like, talk me through that. Like, how do we reframe that to go, listen, you could start building today and build something, but you could also invest in some research, understand what you're building, which is going to save costs around dev time. You might be building something that your users want rather than what your users might not engage
I
with.
think it would be really great if investors included this as part of their diligence. And I mean early stage investors. I think that if we are going to throw a whole lot of money at a bunch of bets we should try to make better bets. And companies that have demonstrated the willingness to be wrong, the willingness to deeply understand their customers and their users, are probably going to be the ones that are more likely going to succeed. That doesn't mean that their idea is necessarily the best one, but it means that they have the markers of what I think a great founder is. So that's one way that I think we can change it, is that if the money starts demanding that you do research as part of your early stage development process, then you will see startups just follow that. As for everyone else, I think that there's an element of human nature that we just have to expect and accept, which is we like to be right. We also like to be safe. And once we've had an idea, once we've built a little bit of it, we have what's called sunk cost bias, which is I've invested a whole lot into this, and I am going to consciously or subconsciously, honestly or not, do everything that I can to make sure that it happens that way. And as flawed as that is, I don't think that that's going to stop any time soon. I just think that that is part of who we are. And I think it's a shame. I think that we need to reframe failure. We need to reframe being wrong. We need to celebrate it. We need to seek out difference. We need to want to hear from other people. I certainly think that we are going to see a wave of new founders that are able to sort of sit in the humility of that and still be strong and successful and be wrong and seek difference and welcome debate and reframe failures as wins. And all of those things I think are really exciting. And I do think that they are just before us. But I do think that we also just have to acknowledge that there is a pattern to human behavior that maybe we can't get around.
It's funny. Look, my background's recruitment. I run a recruitment company. And did I ever think user research would help me grow a more successful business? No. And the amount of times in my journey from starting a recruitment company to now running a consulting company that I've had the sunk cost bias and spent a lot of money chasing something and not wanting to pull the pin. Whereas there's always a lesson learned. It's just I wish I was doing the proper research to be able to reduce the cost before I needed to pull the pin because it was getting too expensive and it wasn't working. But
yeah, and good on you for saying that out loud. I think that it's the first step of recovery in this context. And that we've all been wrong. We've all experienced sunk cost bias. We've all pushed something too far without validating it. We've all shied away from risk mitigation in this context. And that's okay. I think the great thing is that Juno is allowing a very cost-effective solution to this, which is it doesn't have to be perfect. Just let Juno ask some questions and you will know more than you did yesterday.
Yep.
That's it. You don't have to overthink it. It just interviews people and it interviews them really well. You can trust the data. It's me behind it and my digital clone. And that the closer you can get to the actual truth, and the truth being your customer's experience, the better your product's going to be.
Which is the point of it all, right? Before this conversation, I would probably say it's all a part of the entrepreneurial journey to fail and go through these experiences. But if you could mitigate a lot of them by doing proper user research and working out if my strategy sound or not sound, like why wouldn't you? It just doesn't make sense not to go down that path. And you could
I agree.
do that with any business, right? Like in this context, like most of the companies that we work with are tech products. So I think that's where user research is obviously pretty prevalent, but there's still so many products being built without any user research at all. And then they built something, they work out it's not working, and then they call in design. And then designers are frustrated because they're just trying to fix something that's broken as opposed to help design something.
Yeah, and then with not much budget.
Yeah. So fun times for them. But if you're advising, let's say, a CEO, they've got 12 months runway, what's the minimum
Mm.
viable research that they should be doing? Like, where should they start? What they should they be looking at to validate before they get too far down, potentially building something or launching a new product?
Yeah, I think there's a few key components of it. The first one is like, what category are you in? You know, are you a financial product? Are you an educational product? Are you a healthcare product? Um, what are you what problem are you trying to solve, and do you really understand that problem from the perspective of your desired market? If yes, how do you know that? And how old is that thinking? Are you sure? Are you willing to really bet 12 months runway on the fact that you're right? If you're still willing to do that, then the question is, based on the thing that you've designed, built, prototyped, have you watched people use that? Have you talked to them about it? Have you talked to them after they've used it? Have you continued to validate your assumptions about the problem that you're solving? And are you ensuring that there is a system in place for you to always be consuming what your customer thinks and feels? And I don't think that there is any sample size that is the kind of golden rule. There is a lot of that going around. I just think it's utter crap. It just depends on the context. You know, if you're designing a product that is a global product, a representative sample is going to be really different to if you are a niche national product, and you can probably do 50 or 100 interviews and that be representative. So I think it just depends on the context, but I have never really seen any interviews, when done well, be a waste of time. It's just about getting started. What I mostly see is people overthinking it.
Yep.
And I think that's possibly because it used to cost so much relative to what it costs now. And so there is a hangover of that, where I get these detailed briefs and I hear everyone debating what we should focus the research on. And really, it is just about getting started. Just tell Juno to ask something and we will get moving. But sitting in a boardroom and being philosophical about all the things we should ask is an utter waste of time now that it's so cheap. Like, why are you doing that when you can just throw $5,000 at it and keep
Yep.
running? Because your competitors are doing that. So I think everyone just needs to get out of their heads about it and think about it more as an always on capability that you are improving and building. And you're just consuming that data as an input to your decision making process, and you're just becoming better at what you do.
I'm going to relate what you just said to like the adoption of AI. I think
Mm.
people look at it and go, well, what's the point of mastering prompt engineering or understanding it now? Because it's getting better. So it'll just get better and I can use it when it's better. It's like, but you need to understand how to use it now. So when it does get better, you're a better user.
Yeah, and it won't necessarily get better. I think that we are seeing the curve change a little bit, right? So it got better really quickly, and now it's actually starting to plateau a little bit in terms of impressive capability. And that could be because humans are getting better at understanding and adopting it. So the gap between capability of machine versus human is starting to converge. Or it could be that the curve of the technical improvement is starting to slow down. I'm not sure that we know necessarily. I think it's probably a combination of both of those things. But figuring out how we apply it to real problems that need solving is still where the prize is, right? That hasn't changed. And I think anyone that's sitting back and saying, well, I'll just kind of wait because I think it's going to do everything, that is a terrible plan.
Like it can do a lot. And I think understanding the capability of it helps enable you to understand how to use it better. So yes, you could do prompting, but then you could do prompt chaining, or then you could build an AI agent which does a lot of the prompt chaining for you. And then, like, it's kind of a staged process. Like,
Yeah, we would never have created a digital clone of me a year ago. We didn't know enough. We didn't know where to focus it. We didn't know what our evaluation framework needed to look like yet. We didn't know what the best interviewer in the world needed to do yet.
Yep.
So we had to go through that journey to be sure that when we deploy this, it is going to do the things that we think it needs to do, and it's going to do them really well. We're going to have the intended result. How did we do that? We did a lot of research. We did a lot of validation. We created experiments. We built prototypes. Some of them blew up, and that's the point. And it's now really good. Doesn't need to sleep, speaks any language, doesn't have a 4-year-old demanding their time.
I'm excited for you.
Thank
I
you.
wish I had the business that supported me building an AI version of me, so we could move faster. We're not quite there yet, but it's definitely something I'm very interested in. So it's very cool. But let's say we're talking to a founder. We can do research, and maybe it validates that their idea is shit. How do you still? You've been doing research for such a long period of time.
I've had a lot of those experiences.
Yeah. Well, how do you? So like they've got this 12-month roadmap. We're going to build. Then you go, well, let's do some user research. You've just now gone, well, your idea is pretty shit. So maybe you should redo something here. Like, how do you still prove the ROI of that research, if that makes sense? Like, how are you going, this actually was the best use of your time because it's just validated you're not going to get started yet.
Yeah. So firstly, I'd say, why did you do a 12-month plan if you hadn't done any research? Maybe not a great use of your time. And then I would say that the great founder, business owner, inventor is just going to pivot with that information. It's just data. So the ROI is you only used X amount of your runway on that crappy idea, not Y.
Yeah.
And you now have new information. And what are you going to do with that? That's it. I don't think that doing research means you're going to hear a stereotypically positive outcome. That's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is for you to hear truth, and truth is, in this context, your users or customers or audience's subjective view. That's it.
Yep.
And if you don't care about that, then good luck to you. But if you think that's valuable, then you can't fail or it can't be wrong, because you will just consume that data and move forward with that knowledge. So I'm just not sure it's binary like that. I don't think it's a switch. I don't think it's an off and on. I don't think it's a yes or no. I don't think it's positive, negative. I think it is about, wow, I didn't know that yesterday. I am now going to go about my day with my company or my product or my system or my service, knowing these things about my users.
Yep.
And I believe that I'm going to make better decisions with that data as input. That doesn't mean that it's the only type of data that you consume. There is obviously many types of data, but I believe that if you're not hearing directly from your customers, then you will be making bad calls.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
Like, NPS is not going to save you. Surveys are not going to save you. Listening to your own ego that's not going to save you. You're just going to have a crappy product. And
that no one uses.
Juno will, statistically speaking, be a spectacular failure, right? Because you have to look at the data of startups and how many actually succeed. And statistically speaking, sure, but I have to believe that we have all of the factors and the markers to be the exception to that rule.
Yep.
And I think one of the factors or markers of the exception of that rule is that you are constantly seeking data that is not from your own being to help you to make better decisions. And there is a surrendering to the fact that sometimes that is at odds with your own opinion or thoughts, and then you have to wrestle with that. And that is part of the process. Sometimes I had a conversation this morning with a bunch of customers that want Judo to go in a particular direction. And I don't necessarily think that's where the product should go. But I still consumed that information. And that's okay. They're not running the company. They don't have the other information that I have. But
Yep.
I feel very comfortable that I am now making a rounded, reasonable decision. That doesn't mean I'm right, but I'm making a reasonable decision based on the information that I have. And acknowledging that I am making a call that is not what my customers said about a certain thing this morning. And I'm okay with that.
It's the thing that you got to learn, right? Like you've got to
That's
listen, even when you don't like the opinion. Sometimes it maybe not now, but maybe tomorrow it actually makes sense, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe I should use that.
yeah, and I think there is a myth that is worthy of debunking, which is that I have to listen to the research. You have to acknowledge and consume the research as a responsible decision maker. Absolutely. You do have to hear it. That doesn't mean you have to action it.
Yep, that's it's probably a pretty good point to make, right? Like you've got to take in a lot more data points than just one user interview to make an informed decision.
Yeah. There's economic data points, there's market data points, there is technical realities. Your users may say a particular feature is wanted, or they want your product to do a various thing, which is this morning what my context was. We want Juno to do X. Well, Juno can't actually do X until we've done this other component, because that's just how the technology needs to be sequenced for us to be responsible with our investment.
Yep.
So my users don't know that, nor should they. They don't have to know that. That is
Probably
my
don't
job as the
care either.
CEO. My job is to understand the trade-offs, and I now
Yep.
have a very informed opinion of that. But if I had done that without listening to our users, I wouldn't necessarily understand the trade-off that I'm making. And I think that there are leaders that every day lie to themselves about the decisions that they're making and whether they are reasonable or not.
And well, this for me, I'm going to use myself as an example. Knowing the maybe the decision that needs to be made and not making it. So
Yeah.
having the data, having the research, and prolonging actually making the move.
Juno is not making decisions for companies. Juno is listening to people on your behalf and telling you what they said. That's it. Juno's
Yep.
not walking into your boardroom and making calls. And so I think we it's like there's this fear about it. But what if I hear this? What if I hear that? What if it says that? You're a grown-up.
Yep.
Acknowledge that, disagree with it, give your reasons, make sure they're objective and rational, and move on.
It's a very good point. Like I think, yeah, once again, going back to it's not going to solve all of your problems. It's going to tell people how their users are going to interact with their product that they're potentially going to build. But there are always going to be other factors that come into that. So use your skills wisely. Like you've been funded, right, by Blackbird.
Yeah.
Do they now recommend that every company in their portfolio use Hey Juno to do better market research? Are they pushing your product on their other investments to make sure that people are making better, more informed decisions?
I think that maybe they would be a little biased if they were telling everyone they had to
Yeah, probably.
use Juno. I'm not sure how responsible that would be. They are, of course, a big fan of ours and us them. I do believe that they are welcoming more great research as part of their investment decision making process. It's been a year since we raised, so I can't speak to that personally, but I do think that the investment early stage investors as a whole are starting to demand it more, and they should. And I think they're starting to learn what the difference is between good research and bad research. I think they care about bias. I think there's a quality there that's important. But we're happy if any of our investors push our product. and we absolutely expect them to, but I don't think that it is part of the diligence or a clear demand from them. No.
All right, let's wrap this up. I want to get one of the biggest takeaways from you. In doing research with companies forever, you've got a research platform that's going to be leading the way. What's one thing that you would leave with? Doesn't even matter if it's a startup, scale up, SME, or enterprise, in terms of the barrier to entry with research and the value that it brings.
Yeah, I think everyone needs to get out of their own way and just do it. It is stop overthinking it, get out of your head, just try to get started. And once you start consuming experiences, stories, and sentiment from your market, you will never look back. And everyone just needs to stop writing detailed briefs, stop trying to be so prescriptive, and just ask Juno to tell you what your market cares about today. How do they feel about this product? What do they know about my brand? How did they find that experience? Were they comfortable or not with their purchase? All of those things would be really valuable to any of those brands, any of those companies, whether they are 5 people or 500 people. And we're not doing it enough. And I don't think we're doing it enough because we are scared to, because we think we have to listen to the answers, because we don't want to be vulnerable, we don't want to be wrong. I think that there is a maturity where we just need to level up and say, we are going to welcome this, if not mandate it, as part of our everyday process, where one of our key inputs needs to be customer research, and we need to always know what people think and feel. Ideally, our paying customers and our aspirational customers, and this is just how we do business now. It doesn't mean we're going to do everything they say. It doesn't mean that we are outsourcing our strategic thinking. It means that part of a reasonable decision-making process is ensuring that we have accurate data on what our customers think.
Which is how you have strategic thinking, right? Like you have more data points.
Yeah, it's really not rocket science. It's really not. It's outsource it to an independent third party, have them get you data on what your customers think. Make sure that whoever you use, whether it's Juno or not, are good at doing research. They are all not equal. There are a lot of people offering, humans and machines offering this as a service. Quality does matter. It is a key decision-making input, which means that if you're going to feed fast food into it, then you're going to be stupid and fat.
Oh, I love the analogy. I actually, my takeaway from today is stop doing half-assed shitty user research that's based on my opinion, and start using a platform that can actually enable better research to help me make more informed strategic decisions.
There you go. Great. That's it.
Good summary. I didn't even need AI to write me that summary. Do you like it?
I know you did really well because you heard the information. Well done.
Oh, it's resonated. So don't worry about that. It has resonated. Michelle, I've really enjoyed today's conversation. I've learned so much. So thank you so much for jumping on. And
you are so welcome.
I'm going to start using Hey Juno, and we'll probably offer it to our clients as well. But I'm super keen to watch your journey as a business. So best of luck, and you'll have to keep me informed on how Michelle Clone AI comes along.
I will. You can talk to her soon.
Sweet. Can it tell me how to build Joe Clone?
Well, we'll see. Who knows? I'm open to this being whatever it needs to be. I think she's going to be pretty busy evaluating Juno interviews, but, who knows? Maybe we can clone the clone.
She doesn't sleep, so she might have some time. And she doesn't have a 4-year-old.
She doesn't have any kids. She doesn't need to eat. It's definitely a superior version.
Doesn't hurt herself snowboarding.
Doesn't hurt herself snowboarding.
She doesn't really have any other hobbies other than user research, though.
No, very focused. Yeah. Very focused.
Good. Yeah. Once again, absolute pleasure. But let's stay in touch.
You're so welcome.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks for watching. Now remember, please hit subscribe. And if you could leave us a like and a comment, it helps people like yourself find the video.